Hey guys, welcome. Matt again with another episode of Costa Rica Crypto. So today I have the pleasure and the opportunity to speak to Domenic Thomas, who is the founder of Worbli and has been in the community for a long time. So I want to welcome you, Domenic, and I was hoping you could kind of give a little bit of a breakdown with your history with EOS and kind of some of your background and where you came from.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Matt. So I started Bitcoin mining back in 2010, back in the GPU days. I had hung around in there until we got into ASICs. I'd been following, the blockchain scene for a while there. I kind of got out of it. My original background is in healthcare. Got my MBA here locally in Maryland from Johns Hopkins, and I started studying computer programming. I'd been in healthcare for a long time. I knew I wanted to change careers, and I started taking a look at all the different blockchains that were out there. I'd probably around 2012, I stopped mining, and then actually early 2013, I stopped mining. I backed off, and then around 2016, I started looking back into blockchain and the programmable blockchains. Got really excited, and I kind of ran across Steemit and all that good stuff again. I was aware of BitShares. And then I heard about EOS, about the ICO and what was coming up. I read the white paper, got really excited about it. And there was a group of us that had wanted to bring financial services to the blockchain, do it in a way that's fair, transparent, cheap, accessible, all that stuff that we'd love to see our existing banks do and probably never will. And specifically wanted to make it easy for people to go in and out of fiat, right? Interact with the traditional financial system. I think those of us who are being realistic understand that blockchain's not going to take over traditional finance anytime soon. We're not going to be able to buy everything we need with Bitcoin or, any of the other cryptos. We know we'd all love to get there, but we firmly believe there's going to need to be an intermediary step. So we really wanted to build kind of like a crypto bank that was, digital asset friendly, again, easy to use, right? Debit cards, the whole thing. And we needed a platform because we started to realize there were a lot of other applications that would need to kind of be on board in conjunction with a bank to make this work. And when we were looking at blockchains back in January of this year, my CTO, Rob DeWilder, took a look. We looked at everything. We looked at, Neo and Stratus and Lisk and Ethereum, of course, and got even some of the permission stuff in Cordo. We looked at Hyperledger. And at the end of the day, EOS was a clear winner. The transactions, the governance, the transaction speed, the recoverable accounts. And so, we chose EOS and we've been in the community ever since.
For sure. So it's kind of like, I try to keep things relatively simple just because I want people who are, both new to the blockchain and people who are extremely experienced to be able to understand everything. But this is kind of my basic understanding of what you're trying to do here. So Worbli is essentially going to be a fork of the EOS software, right? That's yes. Going to try to bridge the gap in between the banking industry and fintech industry and blockchain. Is that kind of a correct assumption?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess my next question is, and I'm going to ask you this because I see it expressed all the time, and I don't personally think that it's accurate, but a lot of people and forks of EOS is kind of a contentious subject. And I'm personally of the opinion that some of these forks are a great idea for a variety of reasons. But I personally want to know, why are we forking EOS? And do you think in any which way, shape, or form this particular fork is going to be a detriment? Or do you think that it's going to, what's your general opinion on forks? Of course, this is biased coming from somebody who's creating a fork, but I think I want to know what your opinion is, and I want to know why you think that way. And I think a lot of people do too.
Sure. So, we get asked this all the time. I completely understand it. I can understand that as a mainnet token holder, you've invested in block.one to create the EOS software. Yes, it's an open source software. Anybody can use it and do what they want with it. But we are EOS, people at the core. We all hold EOS. We're all EOS token holders on the team and as founders. we would have loved to have just built on mainnet if we thought we could have created a bank and fulfilled the vision of what we want to do to have something that's globally compliant. A no-brainer, would have been an easy thing to do, probably way easier to get funded even, with all the VCs out there. But it comes down to compliance at the end of the day. We have a lot of people who have a lot of decades of experience in banking. We've done tons of research. We've spent at least $50,000 on legal already just in the last 6 months in working on other projects. We've been engaged in this process, and you need compliance at a core level. So all the way down to our block producers on our chain, they are going to be signing agreements. They're going to go through AML KYC. They're going to have to be audited for their financials. They're going to need to be transparent. And we're going to hold ourselves to the same standard, the foundation we're forming that runs the chain. So compliance is the key. It has to be at the core level of the chain. It has to be in the governance. It has to be in the block producers. And so we didn't see a way in which we could impose this on mainnet, put this up for a vote and expect, nor do we think that would be great for mainnet, because the vast majority of things that are probably going to launch won't need things like AML KYC, and it costs money for every verification. So we'd need every mainnet person to go through that process in order for us to be on a compliant chain and interact with those users. So compliance was the key. And the governance, and being able to build the governance around compliance and know that it will stay that way, because that's the other issue. We wouldn't want to raise millions of dollars and put all the time into building a bank, and then suddenly if mainnet decided to change one of the rules and it was no longer compliant, we'd be in trouble. What would we do? I mean, then we'd have to fork or something to move our dApp to another chain. So it all comes down to compliance. But we thought about this long and hard, and we wanted to find a way to make sure that mainnet token holders felt rewarded in a sense that they did pay to have this software developed, and that we would be an asset to mainnet. And so the ways in which we chose to do that were we're airdropping 40% of our tokens on mainnet holders. We're going to take a more real-time snapshot. We felt that was fair to the existing token holders now, instead of just a Genesis snapshot. So we're in the process. Our launch date's 9/14, so we'll be doing it between now and then. But we're definitely airdropping tokens on mainnet holders. We're actually even including block.one in their airdrop, because we think it's fair that they get rewarded as well. The other thing is that we are big proponents of IBC. We're already in Telegram channels with other groups who are working on the inter-blockchain communication. So we've definitely hoped that there will be bridges between our chain and mainnet that are direct. But we're looking at solutions right now where it'll be easy for mainnet token holders to use the services on our chain, and vice versa. If we have unique users that join our chain that aren't necessarily mainnet token holders, that there'll be ways for them to move back and forth insofar as we can. But we believe inter-blockchain is the big thing. I think the other thing is that, we will be open sourcing everything we do. So if there are any governance innovations, for example, we have a worker proposal fund as well that we're calling the Worbli Network Fund. And we're doing some unique things with that. We're going to make all of that available. And if it seems to be the best way to go, then we'd love mainnet to adopt those things. Vice versa, we'll be taking things from mainnet as we think innovations that come up. So we think there'll be a culture of innovation. We expect to work closely with mainnet. We have block producers who are working for both chains. And I think the final component of it is that, we have a system in which the way we're going to do RAM and CPU and network resources that we think is pretty good. We're finalizing details on that right now. We know that's been a challenge, and there's some controversy for mainnet around that. But, some of us forks who can do some of these fundamentally different things, we think that eventually we'll run to the best consensus and the most efficient consensus for all stakeholders, token holders, dApp developers, right? So we think that there's an innovation kind of pool that will form with a lot of different forks.
I have to agree with you on there. I think that each fork of the EOS software is kind of it's a little testing ground. It's a little bit of a place to play around. And based on a previous conversation that we have, I know that you have a long history with EOS, and I know that you communicate directly, and you're looking at this more of in a light of cooperative effort. Just the current governance is not going to allow you to do what you need to do. And I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. I think that the more that we're able to do some of these things, use them as breeding grounds, testing grounds, experiment, as long as everybody can kind of work cooperatively, it's going to ultimately create a stronger mainnet. So I have to agree with you on that, and I believe in what you're saying. Let's take this like very, very basic level again. Let's break it down to like let's just say hypothetically your 15-year-old son. What problem is Worbli ultimately solving? What is kind of the goal with the creation of Worbli, and what are some of the innovations behind it, and the reason that you're creating this fork?
We're doing it because as blockchain stands right now, for the average user, especially a non-technical user, to get involved in blockchain, we just think it's too complicated. There's too much friction for the user. It's opening an account with, at least in the US, someone like Coinbase, right? They have to wire up money, then they have to buy Bitcoin. If that's all they want to do, okay, Coinbase does a pretty good job of that. I'd say it's still a little expensive, but that's fine. But if you then want to buy tokens and interact with dApps, or you're really not comfortable with Coinbase holding your funds, which we'd recommend no one do that, and everyone in blockchain kind of who understands blockchain knows you should hold your own coins and your own private keys. Now you have to download a wallet, and you have to run a wallet, and you have to transfer the coins. There's a risk along the way that you could make a mistake. You could lose your private keys, potentially, things like that. We just don't, I don't know about you, Matt, but when I have conversations with people who don't understand blockchain, I get glazed over looks pretty quickly. And if I want to get them involved, I kind of have to sit there manually with them and walk them through it. And I just don't, that's not going to scale. I think all of us involved in blockchain want to see this, go mainstream. We want to see billions of users around the world. We know what this technology can do beyond the transformation of digital money and finance. It's really, the possibilities are infinite. I mean, this is a giant leap in technology for humanity. So we know it starts with how do people engage it? How do people start buying and bringing fiat money into the system? How do they interact with dApps in a way to make payments so that dApps can be rewarded for their work, right? I mean, simple stuff. We're not going to be able to airdrop our way into the future. At some point, we're going to need real businesses. And just a use case for us, it took us 3 months to get a bank account in the United States. And that's with a global law firm writing up our articles of incorporation. Cost us almost $20,000 to incorporate our company, to do it right. We're working with Deloitte, an accounting firm. And it took us 3 months just to get a simple bank account because the banks just didn't want to deal with us. And so that's a problem, I know, and a challenge for a lot of blockchain businesses around the world. Some jurisdictions better than others. But again, we need to make this easy. That's the first stage. And so Worbli's created to take that integrated step to bring the compliance that we know is necessary so that we're not going to run afoul of people like the SEC or the IRS or Fintech or FINRA or any of these global compliance organizations, but still not have a walled garden, right? Worbli's not going to be a totally permission chain. They'll have specific governance around compliance, but there'll be a process whereby we're going to automate so that we know that if you want to launch a dApp on our chain, that you're willing to meet compliance and you agree to do that. But as long as you do that, anybody can launch on our chain. As long as you stick by the compliance and play by the rules, it's wide open.
Cool. And what I'm just I dig through your white paper and I made a bunch of notes. One of the most prominent things to me and kind of my understanding of the whole project is, just if I were to sum it up in a sentence, and correct me if I'm wrong, is bridging the gap in between the banks and the cryptocurrency community, usability, while creating something that's compliant ultimately with banks, right? But one of the things that really, really stuck out to me was, one of the things that really stuck out to me, tongue-tied here, it's been a long night, was creating a way for the underbanked to be able to have access to both crypto and banks alike. So is there any way you can kind of elaborate on that, elaborate where your headspace is on that, and some of the ways that you might be able to do that?
Absolutely. So one of the core values for us is not only do we want to bring banking to blockchain so that blockchain technology becomes more accessible to the average user, but that specifically we see that blockchain technology can be leveraged to make financial services in general accessible to more people. Banking is not available around the world. We may take it for granted in industrialized nations, Western countries, but there's still many places where there's problems. Africa stands out, parts of South America, parts of Southeast Asia. There's challenges. There's people who don't have access to bank accounts, or if they do, they're very expensive for them. And we just feel like this is almost like a disproportionate tax on the poor. We want, as a society, we expect people to sort of, build businesses, right? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You hear this stuff, but to us, it's not necessarily a fair game for everybody involved. I mean, how are you going to build a business in sub-Saharan Africa if you can't even accept payments, or you don't have a stable currency to work with? These are fundamentals for business building. And so a lot of people are walled off. They've been walled off from the internet economy. The internet made it easy to launch a business, easier than it's ever been in history, cheaper. But again, if you don't have access to general banking, you can't play in the arena. So we know that blockchain has the capability to drive down costs, reduce risks, and increase security to a level where we could potentially offer accounts to just about anybody in the world. And we think that's a really exciting part of this. And so it's a big part of our mission.
Yeah, I'm personally a bit of an ideas guy. And when I read that, that's what really kind of intrigued me in the white paper, because it is a massive problem. A lot of people in less fortunate countries, they don't have access to bank accounts. They don't have access to banking. And the beautiful thing about the internet and what's going on in the world is that it provides so much opportunity to really be able to kind of change the direction and change the hand that you've been given through innovation. But if people don't have the opportunity to reach out and grab that innovation, and people don't have the opportunity to be able to operate financially, then we're going nowhere anyway. So that was kind of one of the main things that struck me. I'm a big proponent and believer and fan of dApps and software that changes things. And I think that if you can accomplish this, I think it could change a lot. The fact that it runs on EOS Software is beautiful as well, of course, for the reasons that we've already talked about. Let's talk about a couple of I remember reading through the white paper, and there was 3 dApps that are going to be launching. I know you have more in the background. And there's kind of a couple that came out to me. Do you want to talk about Gamma Bank really quickly, what that is and how that might work?
Sure. So, the Worbli network is the EOS fork that we're launching that's going to provide the foundation and the infrastructure to build these fintech dApps that meet compliance. So that's sort of stage 1. And then stage 2 for us is that as a company, one of the first dApps that we'll be producing is Gamma Bank. So much like EOS, we've all heard Dan's ideas. He built EOS so that, and you and I were talking about this earlier, so he could have the playground that he wanted to really build the kind of dApps that he's been thinking about. And we've heard about things like Steam at 2.0 and other ideas that they have. So it's very similar for us. We're going to get the chain up, we're going to get the compliance in place. And then once that happens, we'll turn our focus to Gamma Bank. And Gamma Bank's interesting. We're rewriting the white paper right now, so stay tuned. We're going to be producing that soon. But it's going to actually be a kind of a dashboard of dApps because we figured out that if we do it that way, we can get around having to get these sort of Class A banking licenses. And for those of you who aren't familiar with fintech and how it works, especially in places like the United States and in Asia and Europe, if you want full banking privileges, accepting deposits and custodianship of funds, issuing debit cards, doing things like loans, savings and checking, you need a Class A banking license. They're very difficult to get. They're very expensive. Even if you have the money, the connections, and the resources, it can still take up to 2 years. And so that's not really going to scale, right? Like, how are we going to get into global countries all around the world if it's going to take us up to 2 years per jurisdiction to get licensed? And we're talking $10 to $20 million in like United States, Japan, England. They're very expensive, very time consuming. So we found a way through working with our team of compliance experts and people with banking experience that if we launch individual dApps that provide all of the function of a bank, but they're actually separate entities. So they have different compliance, because it's not the same compliance if you just want to do a PayPal type of thing, right? PayPal, for example, is just a money services business. They don't need a Class A banking license to just be a payment gateway. If you want to just issue debit cards, we've seen startups that are doing that, and they're just doing crypto conversion. It's actually a pretty simple thing to do. That doesn't require a Class A banking license. But if we have each of these dApps, we pull them under a really good user dashboard that's simple and easy to use. Again, only requires you to send money to one place. We can be a bank sort of without being a bank. And that's kind of the beauty of it. So that's going to be the first thing we work on. We'll be developing the dApps that we think we're best suited to develop, but we've already got a bunch of partners who are going to be building some of the dApps in that dashboard. And what we expect Gamma Bank to be over time is kind of the bank of the Worbli chain, and the best-in-class dApps on the chain will be included in that dashboard for the users. And we also invite competition. Absolutely. Our vision is we'd love to have half a dozen banks. We'd love to even see, JP Morgan say, we want to launch a digital branch on your chain. That would be awesome. We don't expect to be the only player. Competition is good. So we're really excited about that.
For sure. Is it kind of and I might have this wrong, but this is kind of what I dug through the white paper, and this is what I'm getting. Is it fair to kind of summarize that as a place where you have access to fiat, and ultimately you're going to be able to buy, crypto with that fiat, and just it becomes more of an exchange. It's also a bank account where you have access to purchase, other cryptos as well, or what's kind of, if you were to summarize that in one sentence, what would you say? What would you call it? If you're trying to explain it to your 15-year-old son.
So it's an integrated cryptocurrency bank. It's going to be tied to exchange platforms, numerous. You'll be able to connect with whatever trade accounts you want, like that you are already a part of. So let's say you have a Binance account, you want to pull that into your dashboard and see your balances and things, and potentially do some trades. We're going to be working on relationships, and we already have been with all of the major exchanges. We have an exchange launching on our platform, which I think maybe we were going to talk about anyway, CubitX. That will be an integration with them. We want to be able to make it easy for there to be fiat pairings for all tokens out there. We have an investment bank that we're involved with that wants to launch. We have an FX trading, all of these things that the ideas we're going to sort of build together. So there's integration, and we see the user just kind of like saying, ooh, yeah, I like that. I'm going to need that. And you kind of build your own bank. You may not want to sign up for accounts with everything. That'll be okay too. It's going to be almost like a iTunes store for the user, where they can pull the dApps in they want, and they'll all be integrated together. So that you're not having to constantly log in and out of everything. And we're going to have digital asset insurance across your account. So if you do want to leave your funds in there, you will be insured. You will always have a manual option to hold your private keys, download everything to wallets if you choose. But we really don't think the average user is going to do that at the end of the day. We wish they would, but we're trying to be realists. We just don't think non-technical people are going to deal with wallets, so we're trying to make that a safe, transparent, honest option for people like that to store their assets.
I love it. I think it's cool. I think it provides more accessibility and just puts it on a more digestible level to the common person. And kind of what I'm understanding from this is that people essentially are going to have easier access to crypto in an environment where it's safer. Your funds are insured. You don't have to worry about anybody taking off with it, which is one of the major concerns, of course, with a lot of exchanges these days. So it kind of eliminates that. It gives you access to a lot of different resources, and I think it's a cool idea, and I'm looking forward to seeing you move that along. One of the things you talk about in your white paper as well is providing easier access and eliminating barriers to entry, not only for people who are purchasing crypto or want a bank account, but also developers. You want to talk a little bit about how that might look and why Worbli would be a kind of a good opportunity or a good place to be able to develop, and why you think that is?
Yeah. So again, for some of the same reasons that it's easier for the user, that the compliance is in place and that it'll be a safe environment for them. But really, it does come down to that. Developers, you're a software developer and you've got a great idea for a fintech app. You understand the tech. You understand the use case of what you want to do, but you may not be a compliance expert, and you don't want to have to go out there necessarily in the early stage, especially, and hire on or bring on these people or, dilute your equity or just deal with the hassle of it. It's a hassle. It is a lot of work. We have, thousands of dollars and thousands of hours into it already. But the compliance will be in place for you. The network will be in place. The governance, all of these other things will be taken care of. We are going to have a very predictable cost on our chain, the way we're doing things like RAM and all of this other EOS-related stuff as far as the network resources. You'll know how much it's going to cost. The compliance will be in place for you. We're going to AML KYC our users, which is the process for verification in the financial world, at the user account level. And the user, you as an individual, you're going to actually own that, and you're going to have a token that you can send out to dApps when you want to interact with them. But your financial data will be stored and encrypted within your Worbli account with us. And you'll be able to you only have to do it once. And that's a big cost. That can cost upwards of $10 per user per verification. And so that cost has to go somewhere. It's either going to, be passed on to the user, unlikely, or the developer, most likely. So there's going to be a big financial incentive, as we scale and add users to our network. We've got 1 million users. They're already verified. Again, done. That cost the developer doesn't have to absorb. The compliance is taken care of for them. Now they can just build. And then we have plans for educational tools, developer SDKs. We have the Worbli Network Fund, which will provide funding. Insurance will be there for you. And hopefully, as I spoke to earlier, a bank account, which sounds simple, but is not easy to get. You can trust us on that. And you can talk to anybody in blockchain. People have gotten de-risked. They've had bank accounts and lost them. So, we're really hoping that as this vision and everything gets built over the next year to 2 years, that a developer's just going to have to worry about software development. That's our goal. Build their app, bring it on chain. The rest is pretty much taken care of for them.
I think that's great, man. And I think, at least amongst my friends, because we all have a ton of friends who know nothing about crypto. All they see are these massive exchange hacks. And this guy lost this, and these users, you got guys lining up with signs, petitioning to get their money back. And, man, it's brutal. It's brutal. And I think it freaks a lot of people out. And if you're able to provide somewhere where people are able to interact with these type of assets in such a way that they're not worried about some hacker coming in and stealing everything that they've got, because people work hard for their money. Let's get real here.
Sure.
A lot of people work hard for their money. And I think that if you're able to accomplish that, it's going to legitimize, it's going to help to legitimize cryptocurrency in a whole. And it's going to put a lot of people at ease, and it's going to create a lot more encouragement for the common person to go out and to buy assets and to invest in the ecosystem. So I personally think that that's really, really neat. So of course, DPoS, right? Running on the EOS software. Let's talk about BPs. You guys have BPs lined up? Are you talking to BPs? Kind of where are we sitting with that, and how far along are we? And when are you anticipating putting up a testnet?
Yeah, so we do have. I'm double checking right now because it changes. We've been working with them. I believe we have 14 block producers supporting our chain, which is certainly more than enough for us to get launched. We do want to get to 21. And we will. Testnet's going up. I just spoke with my CTO an hour ago. We had a call with an AML KYC provider that we're considering using a testnet within a week. And network launch on 9/14, which will also be the airdrop. We're building a portal for the airdrop. That'll all go through our website, worbli.io. So yes, we have block producer support. Plenty for now. I've only spoken mostly to people I know, and I know would be easier to work with, and that we really trust, and that know what we're trying to do. We didn't want to necessarily make it wide open quite yet, because we didn't want to deal with 30, 40 people all at once. We're still in the early stages of getting everything launched, but we actually anticipate having upwards of 100 BPs. We really, from a technical and security level, kind of are more in line with block.one's original vision of I think it was supposed to be around 121. Yep. But we'd like to have 100 block producers as we scale over time. But we definitely have at least 14 right now. I think I'm capping it I feel pretty confident with what we have. And once we get the chain launched on 9/14 and go public and get through some of that, we'll be ready to start adding more block producers.
Yeah, I think personally, from what I'm hearing, like some of the benefits that you have going on is that you already have a relationship with block.one. You're already familiar with the software. You're looking for a cooperative ecosystem. We've got a good grasp on the fact that in order to be able to continue to develop EOS, certain forks are going to be needed, because otherwise they're going to plug up the network, right? You're going to manage to decrease RAM usage, change a few governance things, but it looks like your overall attitude is that you ultimately want to support EOS community. You appreciate the EOS community. You've been a part of it for a long time, and I think that that's a good attitude to take. I think that's a good way to go about it. Let's talk about inflation, if you don't mind, and just maybe some of the, if you could just summarize like some of the brief changes in governance, and talk about kind of the inflation and what your intention is with those.
Sure. So our block producer payment is very similar to mainnet. It's going to be around 1%, but we're doing it a little bit differently in that one of the main differences we have with inflation is that our inflation is based on what we're calling our usage algorithm. We spend a lot of time on everything from our token economics to the financial incentives of the chain and the economics of the entire blockchain in general. And we wanted stakeholder alignment across the board. And so what we've come up with is this idea of a usage algorithm, which is that as more and more dApps deploy and more transactions are happening on the network, the rewards get higher. They get higher for block producers. The airdrop tokens are slowly going to be unlocked according to the usage algorithm. That's going to be part of, as users, first of all, just sign up for an account, 15% are going to be liquid right away. But then as more users sign up and more tokens are staked on our chain, more tokens are going to get unlocked, right? As more dApps deploy, more tokens are going to get unlocked. So it's our usage algorithm is basically around staked tokens. And when you actually deploy a dApp on our chain, one of the incentives is that we were thinking about this idea that, like, okay, so let's say a dApp comes on chain and it needs to stake, 1 million tokens is approximately for the size of the dApp and the expected number of users. We're thinking like existing business, right? They're coming on, they know they have 100,000 users, they do approximately, 1 million transactions a year or whatever it is. We can make a fairly decent estimate of what their network resources will be. And so they're going to stake those tokens, but we want to incentivize them to stay there. And we don't think they should be, penalized for staying staked, right? And if you have inflation at, 4 or 6%, that's just like a worker proposal fund or these other things, although they bring value to the network, these people are going to be kind of losing ground, right? Next year, technically they'd have to add at least another 5%, to their token amount. So they're actually going to get a usage reward as well. So it's like a staking reward when you deploy a dApp. And then we do have a equivalent of a worker proposal fund that we're calling the Worbli Network Fund. We're putting 1% into that as well. So our actual inflation now, this is again, we'd have to have maximum network usage. So effectively close to 100% network usage, it would be 6%. Would be the inflation. We estimate it's probably going to be closer to 3 to 4 at the end of the day.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounds interesting to me. It sounds neat. I like it. Is there any kind of, in terms of the governance of the project itself, it sounds like you have a lot of faith in what's happening, with kind of EOS and some of the changes that are coming in. And I know that I'm not going to drag you into anything too deep here, but is there any way in particular that you have to change the governance of Worbli in order to be able to accommodate some of the fintech stuff aside from a lot of the regulations, or is it going to be kind of a similar project to what's happening with EOS right now? Are there any?
Well, right. So our governance absolutely at the fundamental layer is compliance based. So what we've written up and prepared to put into the Ricardian contracts and some of the smart contracts on our chain is all the compliance stuff. It starts there. The second stage of what we're doing with governance is, because we need to control certain things at the beginning to make sure the compliance is in place, it definitely starts centralized. And we're actually not ashamed of that, and we're not trying to hide that. People keep saying, are you a centralized chain? And it's like, well, to start, yes. Again, our block producers are not elected. Again, we don't think that's good for stable business. They're going to be on contracts with us. The initial contracts are 6 months. After that, we're going to be doing annual contracts. We think that block producers, if they're going to be asked to maintain the compliance standards we want them to maintain, that they should at least have a steady income, and they shouldn't need to be also spending all these excessive resources on marketing and getting votes. And plus, effectively, you're not going to have any collusion, right? We pretty much eliminate that right there. There's no reason for it. It's not going to help them. So, block producers, as we envision it, will never be elected. But one of the things we're putting in, and we think at the end of the day, when community input is considered, what people really want, more so than the ability to elect everything, because as we're seeing, we're only getting about 12% of voters on mainnet even engaging in voting. People want to be able to eliminate bad actors, though. That's important, right? If you see somebody who's getting out of line, we're definitely going to have processes where the community can vote, and even oust us. So the way we're setting this up is the Worbli Foundation is in charge of the network and managing the relationships with block producers, business development, general marketing. But the executive team of the Worbli Foundation is going to answer to a board of directors. That board of directors is going to renew the contracts, oversee the Worbli Foundation team to make sure they're carrying out that mission. In about anywhere from 1.5 to 2 years on our roadmap, we're going to create elections for that board. And that is going to be entirely community driven. But all stakeholders will have a vote. So block producers will also have a vote, a portion of that vote. And we're trying to do it in a way that, again, it engages everybody. DApp developers are going to have votes because we want all of the stakeholders of the network to have a say in this, but they'll elect the board. And then that board will decide whether the executive team is going to stick around. So effectively, I could be out of a job in 2 years. I'll be subject to that very same thing, even as a founder. I'm currently the CEO of Worbli. I'll be working for the foundation, but I could get ousted. DApps could potentially be removed from the chain if they're acting out. Now, if they're meeting compliance standards, that'll be good enough for the Worbli Foundation. And certainly if we saw bad actors, we'd be one of the first people who want to remove them if they were doing other things. But there'll be a mechanism for the community to do that. Immediately, though, the community will definitely have a voice in the worker proposal, the Worbli Network Fund. So that'll be the first place that people can engage. And we expect to decentralize over time. Ideally, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, we hope that we're automating the bulk of this and the community can begin voting on as many aspects of the chain as possible. Cool. And that there's sort of like, we envision AI and machine learning tools looking for nefarious activity of whether it's the BPs or dApps on the chain or users on the chain that can identify and bring information. And then as you and I were speaking about at the beginning, we really very much will be using part of our Worbli Network Fund to I'll say, open source fund journalists. It won't be something that'll need to be continually voted. It's something we're going to put in as an ongoing Worbli Network Fund. And we're hoping to have our own version of like the Worbli Financial Times or the Worbli Wall Street Journal at a high ethical level, I hope. But, where there's reporting, right? So that voters can stay informed. It's something that I've advocated for on mainnet as a mainnet token holder. And it's definitely something we want on our blockchain as well.
I love it, man. It sounds really cool. Sounds innovative. For me, like I said, I always kind of like the certain dApps that are a little bit disruptive or provide access or accessibility to, to things that people might not have or have the potential to change the world. And as I said before, the thing that really strikes me about this is kind of the social impact of maybe making a bank account a little bit easier to get for somebody who is in wherever it might be, certain parts of the world that just don't have the same opportunities that we have. And that's kind of what shines out about this. I like the fact that you are an EOS fan. You've been active in the community. I think you have the right attitude when you go about this. And I'm really, really interested to see what develops and kind of how things roll out. I think it's going to be cool. Is there anything else that you wanted to say before we kind of clip this up a little bit and then and move on, man? Just anything that you wanted to talk about or anything you wanted to mention or anything that you wanted to provide access to or resources for?
Well, I definitely wanted to say thanks for your time. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. you can find us at www.worbli.io. Definitely check us out. If you're a mainnet holder, there will be a process to claim your airdrop. We're going to try to make that as easy as possible, but because we're a fork, we can't just drop it in your wallet. We wish we could, but it doesn't work technically that way. There's going to be a process. We will not be touching your private keys. Please don't worry about that. You will not have to worry about giving us your private keys to claim your airdrop. But we'll have a portal for that. Launches on the 14th. You should be hearing from us all over the place if our marketing team's doing their job, which I expect they will. But please definitely check us out. And we are on Telegram. I forget the Telegram channel. I'll have to look that up real quick.
I can post it below in the links, buddy.
Sure. But but besides that, no, we're excited about it, and we're definitely looking forward to bringing value to everybody involved.
Yeah, I think it's super cool, and I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me today. I'm hoping that moving forward, whenever you have something new that you want to talk about, you'll drop me a line, and we can continue to do this. I think it's a cool fork. I think it's going to be neat, and man, I'm just looking forward to seeing what happens next. You're a pleasure to talk to, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right, thanks a lot.
Okay, we'll see you later, Domenic.
All right, bye now.